Listen to this. A glass, one flute note, a 2-note harp loop. That's the entire background of this track. Every time I sat down to write, I want the music to sound like it could only have come from me. But I'm using the same libraries as everyone else, the same samples, the same presets. So, what if the instrument itself was the unique part? What if one battle hit could become a full playable instrument that nobody else on the planet has? Let's find out together. Hi everyone! I wanted to make a video about making your music sound unique for a long time. And then Steinberg asked me to take a look at the anniversary update to HALion, version 7.5. And it turned out to be the perfect excuse to put those two things together. So, disclosure upfront, this video is sponsored by Steinberg. However, the sounds, the patches and the opinions are mine, and you will be able to judge them yourself in about a couple of minutes. Because here's the thing, every single sound in the background of the opening track came from something completely ordinary, and I will show you exactly how each one was built. When you open the HALion, you will see this welcome homepage. And this page enables you to use HALion in two different ways. You can simply play the instruments which are built in the library of the HALion. You can play as a single instrument. You can layer the instrument as a multi-instrument to create something different, something unique. But on the other hand, and this thing is more interesting in my humble opinion, you can create your own instrument totally from scratch, starting from the regular synth, so analog synths. We can layer the oscillators, modulation and other aspect of creating the synthesizer. And you can build also the synthesizer on the basis of your own samples in the wavetable synth, spectral synth or grain synth. Next, you can also create your own instrument, your VST instrument, from one sample with the regular modulation of the instrument in this sample instrument region. And finally, if you want to and you need some kind of a unique sound of the organ, you can create your own organ instrument. So maybe let's start with this instrument, which is called flute organ. A couple of months ago, I printed myself a flute. It sounds about as good as you would expect from a printed flute, which is to say, decently. But it has character, and character is the whole point here. One note, that's the entire source. So this is not tuned even properly, but nevertheless, this is the base to create the instrument. So going back straight into the instrument Spectral Zone, and the first step here is multi section. HALion gives you two multi oscillator modes here, unison and stack. Unison is the classic detuned copies approach. Stack is the newer one, and it lets you spread those copies across much wider intervals. So instead of thickening the note, you are building harmonics on top of it. One flute note becomes a chord for itself. Then over the FX page, for my favorite parameter in the whole engine, blur. Blur basically smears the spectrum across time. Instead of hearing one precise moment of the sound, you are hearing that moment bleeding into the next one. The edges dissolve, the transient softens, and the short notes start to float. That's the difference between a raw sample and the texture. Then we can go to the envelope because the raw recording has a breathy fast attack. This is totally fine for a flute, but wrong for what I wanted to receive. So as you can see, I slowed the attack down until the note eases in instead of arriving. Finally, going to the mixer, I add a little bit of reverb to open the sound to spread the sounds even more, and the mix is set to the 50%. 4 moves, that's it. We have a playable instrument that exists, no one else. Second sound is a glass, only one hit. So let's open the instrument. This is the Spectral Zone again, Spectral Synth Zone again. But this one, I had the problem with the room noise behind. And in this respect, we can use Decompose. HALion can split a sample into 3 components: transient, tonal, and noise. In 7.5 that happens in real time inside the Spectral Zone, which means you are not baking a decision into a file, you are rebalancing the sound while it plays, and you can even change your decision afterwards. In this respect, I kept only the tonal. As you can see, this is the solo tonal component, and pulled the rest down. Also the transients was kept because I want to have a little bit of the attack component of the glass hit. Envelope, again, a glass hit is really violent on the attack, and I wanted something soft to sit under the opening scene. Slower the attack, same trick as for the flutes. And finally, the reverb, the same settings as previously, but this time the mix is set to 100. And we are done. This time only 3 steps. Maybe let's go back for a sec to this model section, which is responsible for the decomposition. As I said previously, we can solo each of the components. So we can solo as I did the tonal, or on the other hand, if we want to use only the noise for the noise floor or something like that, you can solo the noise. The same thing for the transients. So tonal will sound like this, with the noise enabled. We can hear this hiss a little bit in the higher frequencies, and maybe let's find out the transients on its own. You can hear this attack, which vibrates. And the possibilities of tweaking this are endless. We have the sensitivity knob for the decomposition. We can also control the decomposition and the sensitivity with these bands. So how many bands are used for decompose the entire sample sound on the frequency spectrum. And we can also decide whether the noise pitch will be followed by the keyboard, and the same thing for the transients. So if you want to receive the sound which will follow only in the tonal aspect the keyboard movements of your hands, you can tweak this thing with these pitch knobs. And finally, we have sound which sounds like this. Oh, this one is Tap It, and it's my favorite, honestly. So given all the ocean footage in this video, I wanted a background layer, something that suggests water or rain with a bit of wind moving through it. I could have reached for a library or ready-to-go samples, but instead I recorded my electric razor. I used the same features as for the glass, but made the opposite decisions. So this time I soloed the noise component of the sample and threw the tonal part away. And there it is. We have the background of the razor, which gives us water, maybe wind, a little bit of scratchy sounds out of a regular shaver. And it sounds like this. Yeah, and the sound isn't fancy, and it should not be, because this is the only for the purpose of the building the background of the composition. And this is really important, by the way, because even if the one instrument is not special, it can create the special effects and special atmosphere and emotion to your compositions. The last one thing I add, as for the previous instrument, the reverb in the mixer section with the mix on 50%. So this time only 2 steps, and no, it's not made for purpose, but you can see that with a little amount of moves and tweaking anything in the HALion, you can really receive something which is unique from something which is not unique. So regular things which are available on your desk totally. And which is also important, you are not forced to buy anything special. So you can use your regular microphone which you have in the studio, or even use the phone, and that was my case, because all of these sounds was recorded with this phone. Right at the end of the track, where the chord opens up and the woodwind trills come in, I wanted more air in the top end, something granular, something that breathes in these higher frequencies. The source is embarrassingly plain. This is a 2-note loop from a harp library, and it sounds like this. Nothing custom, nothing anybody else couldn't load in the seconds. What makes it different is the new snapshot functions, which is right here in the instrument. Here is the idea. Instead of playing the sample back, HALion takes still, let's say, photographs of its spectrum, snapshots, and then morphs between them. You can have it capture them at the steady rate, at the random or periodic, which was the choice for this very instrument. You can also assign that to a modulation source or freeze on whatever spectrum you are currently holding by this freeze knob. That's a plain harp loop turned into a pad. Let me jump back to the glass for a second, because there is one control here worth understanding. The number of snapshots which is controlled here changes the personality of the patch completely. Fewer snapshots and the sound is more stable. You get something close to a sustained pad. More snapshots and it starts shifting under your fingers. So same sample, almost same settings, completely different instruments. So without snapshots, we have something like this. When we turn on snapshots, and let's say we choose the maximum number, so 8, we have something like this. And then there is another freeze button, this freeze with the A, auto freeze. So watch what happens when I played one note, hold it, and then add notes on top. The notes I added afterwards lock onto the spectrum that was playing in that very moment. So instead of each one going off and doing its own thing, own capturing of the spectrum, we have this more consistent sound, which is the difference between a pad you can compose with a pad that fights with you. And this is a very crucial option, especially for me, because then your instrument is more predictable to play with this option on. Now, everything so far started from a sample, but that's only half of this thing does. HALion is also a full synthesizer, and you can build a patch from nothing at all, starting from one oscillator. So let's test that properly with a brief that isn't mine. When I tested HALion, I asked an AI to generate me a short film. Blade Runner, cyberpunk, rain and neon, the whole cliche, you know. Then I sat down to quickly score it using a mix of regular libraries and instrument I built myself in HALion. Here's what that looked like. Maybe let's start with pulsing oscillator. Okay, ocean floor. Snapshotting it. Nice. Some drums, definitely some drums. Okay, some motoric movements, a little bit of percussion. Better, but the lack of movements here, definitely. What can we choose? Maybe string ostinato. Cool. By the way, I use a cool trick for string ostinatos. So as you can see, all of the notes was doubled. So firstly, I record one ostinato, then copy paste it right after the original notes, and then we receive the more richer sound, and it sounds almost like with additional delay, but there is no delay at all. My camera was off when I recorded, but here's the thing. I go downstairs to take some water and I noticed that my dishwasher is working, so I recorded the sample of it. Back to HALion. As you can see, I solo only the tonal part of the dishwasher. Add some reverb. We have LFO with the cutoff of the frequencies. And that's it, because I want to have this mechanical sound to the composition to make it more cyberpunk, let's say. So I use this dishwasher sample and it sounds like this. Yeah, a little bit strange, but in the context it make the whole thing and what I want to receive from the instrument. One last thing before we go, and this is the one that changed how I and how you can actually use these patches. Everything we've built so far is rather static. You design it, you save it, and you play it. But most of these parameters in the HALion can be assigned to a physical controller by MIDI learn. Right click, move the knob, done. Which means the sound design happens while you are playing, not before. And here I have the sample loop I recorded on my acoustic guitar. Nothing special about it. So I drop it to the HALion, go to the multi, and by default this is off. So let's take the extra layers on the multi-page from earlier, so the stack harmonics, and map one of these level to the MIDI fader by right click, learn MIDI CC, and then you can tweak your knob or move your fader of your controller. And watch, as I push the fader, those harmonics come in or come down. And that's the part that makes a custom instrument feel like an instrument and not like a preset with your name on it. To be honest, I barely scratched the surface here. HALion has 6 synthesis engines, scripting, a whole library creator, macro pages. Going through all of it would take absolutely ages, and honestly I would rather you just try it than watch me list features, which you can do for free because there is a 30-day trial with no obligation. And if you do want it, HALion is 25 this year and Steinberg has it at 60% off until the 24th of August. A lot of their other instruments are discounted too, including several I actually use in this video, like Etude Piano, which is amazing because you can go from the very intimate chamber sound to very wide cinematic with a ton on reverb and additional sound effects. And also Iconica Ensemble, which was used for woodwind trills for the first composition, and also as a stacking with the string ensemble spiccatos for the second one. Link are in the description. They are not affiliated links. I don't get a cut of anything you buy. I'm pointing at them because I really like to use them. If you build something out of a glass, razor, as I did, or whatever on your desk right now, put it in the comments and put your thoughts in the comments, or share your whole composition on my email. I really want to hear it. Thanks for watching and happy exploring the sound design surface.